Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. On this week's show, we're going to recap Finishers, the Who's Number One qualifier. We're going to recap Midwest Finishers, and we're going to recap Main Character BJJ Invitational 2. We are also going to preview the IBJJF Crown, one of the biggest events that the IBJJF as far as cash prize divisions have ever put together, and Grapplefest 17 is always in the show. I'm your host, Maine, my co-host,
Miranda.
Hey, Miranda.
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good, especially since you wrote down the intro finally. You figure after 13 numbered shows that I would start doing that a little more frequently, but...
Well, I just know that we have a lot to cover today.
We do have a lot to cover.
So I just wanted to make sure we had it all in one place.
Yeah, so good weekend of events. As far as news goes, we have a couple of big things coming up. We have the ADCC trials, the Asian Open. Yep. Not Asian Open, sorry, the Asian trials.
The first
Asian and Oceanic one. The first one coming up. We're going to preview that probably
next week.
Yeah, this next week. We also have the preview for Gordon Ryan versus Hulk. If you have been on Instagram the past couple of days, the shit talking is real. Both those guys are going back and forth.
Well, and the Yuri...
Oh, yeah, Yuri Samos as well.
Him and, what's it called?
Gordon?
No. The big B team guy.
Big B team guy?
Yeah, that eats all the food. What is his name?
Nicky Rod?
Yeah. Him and Nicky Rod have been going back and forth.
Have they? I've missed that.
They've been going back and forth. Like, sorry, my brain just went completely dead.
The big guy that eats all that. That's one way to describe Nicky Rod.
He has an
Instagram that's Nicky Rod Eats, yeah.
Yeah, and it literally is him just eating food. But anyway.
He's had that for years.
I know he has, and I'm completely okay with that.
Yeah.
I'll watch him eat.
So it's been getting spicy. So now we're going to preview all of that next week for the big Who's Number One card. That card is pretty stacked. There's some awesome matchups on there. Interesting matchup. We have Owen Jones taking on, I had it a second ago on the Who's Number One card. We're getting way off track immediately.
So why don't you just keep on going, and I will find who you're talking about. Because this is going to go sideways really
we're going to go sideways.
And we only have so much time.
We do only have so much time this week.
He goes against Mija.
Yeah, Dominic Mejia.
Is it Mejia?
Yeah.
Oh.
I interviewed him. You can find all the interviews, or most of the interviews, out that I did at East Coast Trials for ADCC.
Okay.
Dominic took second place at East Coast Trials. You can listen to the interview now. We kind of talk about the move to B team. And Owen Jones took first at 66 kilos for European Trials.
Yeah, and it looks like they just gave him his brown belt after that happened too.
Hell yeah. That's a hell of a matchup. Like, I'm super amped for that. I think it's on the prelims, but should be absolutely a main card matchup for both those guys, because those guys are gonna clash, and it'll be a lot of fun. So that interview's up now, as well as the interview with Pat Chagoli.
Isn't that like a preview for basically trials?
Well, I mean, Owen Jones won his trials, and Dominic Mejia got second place. So
So
theoretically, we could very easily see Mejia go into the World Championships with a performance like that at the East Coast Trials. So it could be a preview for ADCC at the world level.
Yeah.
But it's a hell of a matchup to make, and I'm super happy that they made it. Owen Jones actually flew into B team, I think, this week, and is training with the B team guys this week. And Dominic Mejia has now moved over full time to New Wave. Yeah. So it's funny, these guys from previously very different parts of the world are now in the same city for the next month, training for a matchup against each other.
And they're part of the free prelims.
Yeah.
So
you can watch that. It's gonna be awesome. I can't wait for that matchup. Let's see. I don't think I have any other news. ADCC is putting on more opens, but we've known that for a while. And that's it. So let's move on to the recaps, Miranda. Where do you want to start this week for the recap? Which finishers?
We'll start with the Bethlehem finishers.
So we'll start with the finishers, like, not proper is the way to call it, but the OG finishers. Finishers OG. Yeah. Finishers out of Bethlehem, PA, out of the Finishers Gym. This one was a 170-pound qualifier for the Who's Number One slot to basically get you onto the Who's Number One card. Yeah. And that was won by two-time ADCC Trials winner, Amanda Leve's brother.
Yes.
So
I was like, where is he going with this?
Like, Maine, where are you going with this? Evan Levy.
Yeah.
We've watched Evan for a lot of years. He's kind of made the transition, kind of much like his sister did, over to MMA.
Yeah.
But I was talking to Amanda off air. I'm editing Amanda's interview right now. I did East Coast Trials and interlacing her footage, and the interview has had some technical issues that I'm trying to fix before I put it out. But we got to talking about her brother. in that interview prior, before the cameras were on, he was like, right, he's really like, he's lost. Because I remember him as a bigger kid. Yeah. He lost a bunch of weight. He's really pursuing MMA hard. So it's funny that he comes into this finishers tournament much like his sister, kind of like in MMA, like, I guess I'll do jiu-jitsu still, and then wins it and gets the slot onto the prelims here for who's number one.
Yep.
Who's his finals match? His finals match was against
Dylan Garofalo.
Yeah. This was a...
He won in overtime.
Yeah, there was a lot. We covered 3 events this weekend that were all EBI overtime events.
Yes.
I'm going to be full disclosure here for the recaps. Some of them get confusing because there were so many matches that we have a bunch of notes on, and then it's an overtime win. So there's a lot of overtime wins. I think everyone except for Midwest Finishers, every other main event and main title fight was all overtime wins this whole weekend.
A lot of the tournaments this weekend were all that format. Yeah. Where you sub only with an overtime.
With the EBI style overtime at the end. We've talked about that at length, but that's what we're covering this week.
Yep. But we had Evan, it's Levy?
Yeah, Levy.
Okay. He gets a rear naked choke from the back. And it goes from, he does the rear naked choke to the Superman, to the rear naked choke to the Superman. You know what I mean? Which is just a hand placement thing, just to kind of keep a hand across the face. The Superman, it's what I've always heard it called. I don't know if it's a short choke.
I think I've heard you call it a Superman.
Yeah, that's what my original coach used to call it. But it's like it's a short choke. It's when you put your hands together and you put your forearm across someone's back.
Yeah.
And you just kind
like
of
a power half almost.
Yeah,
essentially.
You basically take your forearm to their neck or their face.
It's like it's the really tradition. It's almost what Khabib did to Conor.
Yeah,
kind of where it's like that powered down rear naked choke, and you can try to lever against the head. And if you're in position under the neck, it puts a ton of pressure onto the neck and into the windpipe, and it's very, very hard to fight off. A lot of guys nowadays will go back and fight the elbow, because your elbow can get winged off. But if people really drive into it, it'll turn you, and it's extremely hard to avoid being just like flattened and turned down into the mat. And Levy, again, coming out from MMA or coming sort of back to grappling from MMA, it makes sense with the gloves that he that's a submission and a way of finishing that he would prefer, because
I wonder if that's why I learned it to begin with.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I learned it MMA because getting your hand in front and then across to slide your hand behind the glove gets in the way, so that palm-to-palm finish I tend to see a lot more in MMA, because it's easier to not slide your glove behind the guy's head, especially if you are coming from gyms that strike a lot. They will wrap your hands thicker, and the glove will be bigger. Like famously, Gunnar Nelson uses one wrap around his hands because he wants his hands free to grapple, and so the more padded guys are, the harder it is to get the hand behind, and so you see this hand over hand, like you call Superman finish, more frequently. So an interesting finish in the finals. There was a bunch of other kind of fun matches on the card as well in this bracket. Given we have 3 EBI style tournaments, we're going to kind of cover mainly the main events for these and the main finals for them.
And we'll kind of go through some other matches here and there, but you know. We also had 135 championship, male championship. Yeah. We had Ray DeLeon going against Yuki Takahashi. And
flew in from Japan for this one.
I was like, wow, that's crazy.
So I'm going to get this wrong. I recognize Yuki Takahashi's name. We've covered him before.
I think he was in...
It's killing me for what we talked about him last on.
The...
Not Sub on the Shore.
No, but I think he was in the...
Submission Only series?
No, the one that was in Japan.
Quintet?
Yeah, I think it was...
Or was he on the... He was the one that the Tackets were on. The Tackets and Couch, that one.
I don't know. I'm about to look. But he... funny story, if you watch the match on Flow...
If not the video, you have to watch the actual whole broadcast. Yeah, it's not just the part of that match.
You have to watch the finals with Garofalo versus Evan Levy. And there's a whole conversation about how Takahashi wanted the belt. Yeah. Because I guess the belt doesn't leave the gym. And he wanted to take it home with him. He started putting it in his bag, and they started noticing it. And there's a whole side rant about this belt. He wound up being able to take the belt back to
because they're getting a new belt made.
Yeah.
But it was, again, I always love on commentary when you hear not always, sometimes, but in this case I liked it, where you have a peek behind the curtain of how organizations run, where it's like, hey man, we need that belt. That's the belt we got.
So he's Combat Worlds. Bantamweight Combat Worlds.
Oh, that's where we saw him.
And then he's also done some other stuff.
We've seen him on other stuff before. He wins over Ray DeLeon. Was this in overtime or was this in?
It was in overtime.
Regular, yeah. Okay.
And it was like he literally like one had like 53 seconds total and the other one had like 40 something seconds total.
Yeah, very close overtime.
Imanari Jiu Jitsu,
Polaris Quintet, Combat Jiu Jitsu Worlds. Yeah, so we've seen him before. That's why
he's done a lot of different things. But. Yeah, interesting match.
To take this off of Ray, too, and Ray has had this, Ray DeLeon and Stingray has had this for, I think, a little bit now, because Stingray was the champion I think he had this about the time he got the Sogi belt.
Okay.
So he's had this for a while, I think, so it's cool to have Yuki be able to take that off a long-standing champion. I'm curious if we're going to see it again. Again, goes to overtime, Yeah. Both we're definitely going to see more from both guys. The other title fight that we had on this card, and
we had 2 more title fights on this card.
Sorry, the one title fight that that is in my mind right now is we had Pat Shigoli taking on Ryan Roth.
Yeah,
and these are 2. Ryan Roth is the heavyweight champion for
Sogi.
No, Pat's the heavyweight champion for Sogi.
Then Ryan Roth he's not Ryan Roth or Pat is both Sogi.
Pat's both now.
But I thought Ryan Roth was Sogi or maybe he's a light heavyweight. No, because he can't. Because
he can't be light heavyweight.
He's a big boy. I'll look
Regardless,
for him.
This is the match that Pat, when I entered Pat Shigoli, interviewed him at East Coast Trials. He was talking about leading up to that, and so this is that match. I was super. This is one of the most.
He's the Chronic Combat Heavyweight Champion, the Place of Peace Heavyweight Champion.
Okay.
And
I know Ryan has a couple of different titles. Juggernaut 10P. That's.
Yeah.
Which you know him from, but this is the match that Pat was talking about. This, I think, is the most impressed with Pat that I have been in one of these tournaments because he showed off his wrestling.
He did.
Like, Ryan's a big dude is probably bigger than Pat.
They're
both big dudes.
They're both
but very comparable. And Pat showed off a swing single.
Yeah.
A pretty, for a heavyweight, a blast
double into the people. I was like, oh, shit.
But it wasn't, but what I love to see here, and we've talked about Pat for a couple of years now, and he gets a rap for kind of the way that he finishes, but we've always been concerned that sort of the direction that he was developing his game, and we wanted him to
he was going to be
round out his game
more.
He
was going to be one-dimensional and kind of easily.
This showed me, this isn't just I push you out, blast double. This was a drop and drive, head in the center, turn the corner, grab the legs, and drive through. This wasn't, a lot of times you'll see a heavyweight double where a guy will sort of just push someone over. Yeah. This was not that double. I think there was 2 or 3 different takedowns in this match that Pat was able to hit, and they all looked thoughtful.
There is a weird one, which is he's in on a low single at around 6 minutes, and they go out of bounds. Mm-hmm. And they, instead of standing him back up, they give Pat the leg in a low single in the middle of the mat. And I'm like, that's kind of like putting you're kind of
like starting Paulo Harris in a heel.
Yeah, man. That's you're getting taken down. And I mean, Ryan Roth didn't seem to care about it, but that little bit right there changed the kind of the pacing of the match because once that happened, they went to the ground. Mm-hmm. Before then, it was a lot of them on their feet. Even after Pat blast doubled him, past him, got to mount, and somehow Ryan Roth was like, I will stand up now, and just stood up.
The Derek Lewis defense.
Yeah, it's
look, man, at heavyweight, we kind of laugh about the Derek Lewis just stand up. It absolutely, I gotta find it somewhere. Years ago, someone made a compilation of Derek Lewis just stand up, and they actually broke down, and there's a comment, I think, not in the video, it's a comment about, and it's talking about exactly how Derek Lewis, tripods, how he builds a base, how he loads you over his hips. And it's if you actually watch Derek Lewis just stand up, and if you can't see the video here, it's in quotes, there is a lot of technique and a consistency of technique for doing it. And heavyweights got the memo a couple years ago. And I can just get you over my hips, lever up, turn up, get to a base, and get you off. And that's what Roth does here. But I was, again, really, I want to focus on this because we were concerned and have talked about kind of the narrow scope of Pat's game before, where he's a very good leg blocker, he's very quick, and he gets subs very quickly, and that's like how he has gotten to where he is. To see him, and in our interview, him talk about him rounding out his wrestling and working on that like for a points tournament like ADCC trials, and then to see that in his title match here against Ryan, I think it bodes really well. And I like to see like this is a guy, and he's been working at Unity with Murillo and all those guys, like that came through here. And then in our interview that I did with Pat, he talked about I beat him before, and now there are leg locks in this tournament, so I think you guys can guess that I'm going to go for and get a leg lock here.
And he does.
Pretty quick, too. He gets it. He grabs, what was it? Was it a heel hook?
It was a heel hook at like 6:45.
A nice heel hook. Gets good control. You do not want Pat Chigoli grabbing your legs because he will take it home, and Ryan taps. And Pat is now the Shogi champion and the Finishers heavyweight champion, so two-division champion.
He's been the Finishers champion.
Yeah.
He's won it a few times.
He's defended it a couple times.
I mean.
So
then
it was good. I'm super happy to see Pat developing his game now, and like he will be a problem for future heavyweights because what's he, 17 now?
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that.
He's quite young.
Good luck, guys. To have a young heavyweight is always terrifying. We have more and more young heavyweights now.
He's bendy as fuck. Like he's
flexible.
He will like bend in half, and most heavyweights are just not that flexible.
It is really funny. In recent years, we're seeing a big shift, not changing of the guard, but a bit where previously we've usually had older heavyweights. Yeah. Look at guys like Cyborg.
Because you can age in that that weight class.
And you can retain all the skill you have, and you can keep getting better and better technically while, the limitations of your body are less a factor. The top guys now in the weight classes are like Gordon, who's young.
Gordon's getting older.
He's not 30.
No, but he wears that Santa Claus Papa hair.
The Santa Claus hair.
He's not looking like he's older and older.
Nicky Rod, younger. Big Dan, younger. Luke Griffith, younger. Pat Chigoli, younger. Dude, everyone in that top up and coming and in those big slots now is younger.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting to watch the landscape of heavyweight over the last couple of years begin to sway and switch. So that's all I got for heavyweights. Miranda, the last title fight we got for finishers
was Chrissy Briggs versus Layla Watkins for 135 females. Layla goes into the legs quite a few times. Armbar attempts, goes from armors to Kimura traps to all kind arm and guillotines. She kind of
just
spams,
really throwing it all out there.
And Chrissy's going after the legs. It's really an action-packed match. And then Chrissy shoots a darce on one of the failed arm bars. As she's passing Layla's legs in the arm bar, she shoots the darce. And I've trained with Chrissy for years. I've seen her for years. She has darsed me at a couple tournaments. Her darce is crazy.
Well, that's one of the things that we really know for. We really know her for. We've seen her on Fury as well, and that's one
she
of
was
the tools
in combat jiu-jitsu and she darsed somebody.
Yeah, I remember that. She's really, really well known for that. And you have trained with her specifically and talked to me off air about man, it's miserable.
Yeah, it pretty much so is.
Yeah.
So she won. She's now the 135 champ at Finishers.
Yeah, there's some fun matchups for her at 130. That's a great weight class, and I love Finishers brings in a lot of really good women, and there's a lot of good women on the East Coast here for her to defend that against. It'll be exciting. There's a couple matches that she's had. I think women that will be looking to have rematches with her. So again, she's super active competitively. That's always fun for me because we have women that want to go against her and that want rematches against her, and that'll be exciting to see who she faces next. But it's super fun match. Super good back and forth.
And then we go into Midwest Finishers.
So Midwest Finishers ran a men's 205-pound championship and a women's absolute championship. Miranda, which one do you want to start with?
Well, women's absolute.
Women's absolute championship. So in the finals here, we had Peyton Letcher, who we've talked about for many years, former ADCC first European trials champion for 2021, I think, because it wasn't the qualifying one.
The first one, 2021.
Yeah. And then so Peyton goes against Caitlin Murdock. Both these women had 2 matches prior that they had to get to this finals for the women's absolute. I think Peyton is the Finishers 35-pound champion.
I think so.
135.
I think so.
I know Peyton has a belt with Finishers. She had a great match with Trinity Pund to win that. So Peyton goes against Caitlin Murdock here. There's some good back and forth. Peyton, I think, is really in the driver's seat for the majority of this match. at the beginning. And then during a stand-up, like Peyton's on top, and then basically just grabs the ankle, sits back, goes foot on hip, and then gets kind of almost a straight ankle, but starts to pop the heel out like she's going to go Aoki.
Yeah.
I've always loved watching Letcher because she's very dynamic with the way that she will grab the feet, and then she will, I think this is how she won the last Finishers match we talked about, was she will grab like an ankle lock and then let you spin and she has really, really unorthodox control that she uses for the legs.
And good awareness.
Yeah, and really, really good positional awareness for how you're going to escape. So it was interesting. Again, there's not a whole lot of transition for the finish here, but the setup is interesting where she does that kind of the old school grab the leg, you put the foot on the hip. My old coach, Marcus Davis, has a sub like this in the UFC where it's like the legs up kind of on your hip. You just reach back and sit back onto the ankle lock, and then you have the pressure in falling and then hipping back to be able to take the foot off pretty quickly.
Yeah, and you just have to control the hips so they don't come up on top of you.
Yeah, and she does a good job of posting outside on the hip. Yeah. That's the sub. Peyton is now the women's absolute champion, which is so interesting. We have recently more and more smaller grapplers are winning absolute, like placing an absolute. Like a lot of times at these levels.
For women, when it gets to like a 145-pound woman, it gets a lot easier to kind of get a championship.
Yeah.
At like, because you don't have a lot of dynamic 205 women.
Right.
I mean, there are, don't get me wrong, but
the bell curve of average female size is like, it slopes off significantly.
And most, I don't, competitively locally, like Midwest Finishers is kind of more Ohio in that area. Yeah. I don't know how many heavyweight women compete regularly in that area. I know they started they started a big heavyweight tournament either 1 or 2 years ago over in Oregon. And
oh yeah, what's that called?
I don't know, but they have it. It's a 10th Planet thing. It's at 10th Planet, Portland. And they do heavyweight women's brackets.
Oh, it's gonna kill me now.
Yeah, just because I have friends that are all female purple belt heavyweights, and they, have to travel the whole United States to get matches. Like they don't get matches often, and when they do, they get all excited about it. So it's a little bit easier, I think, as a 45er, as a woman, to kind of take an absolute. Where like with men,
because your bell curve,
with men you have all
Victor Hugo.
Yeah, you have all the heavyweights.
So
that we just talked about earlier.
Because you just saw, I bring that up because we just saw Diallo Braithwaite take the absolute for Copa Virginia, that cash prize division. And Diallo is like 160 something, and so
did he win against? Did he go against Romanov?
No, he didn't go against Romanov, but he went against a guy that was bigger than Romanov in the finals.
Romanov went against one of my training partners yesterday.
Oof.
And it was...
We're talking about Alexander Romanov, UFC heavyweight.
UFC heavyweight. He's kind of local. He goes against some of our local guys.
He jumps to local tournaments all the time. I saw him go against Gavin Corbray.
Yeah, we did. We were there.
Yeah, that was you. You and I were commentating that match. Yeah. It was like the
That's
weird
why I asked,
he got heel hooked by Gavin.
Yeah, because Frank, from
Frank. Yep.
He went against him yesterday. And he literally was all up on one of his legs, and he just kicked him off. And like you just saw Frank go.
Romanov's
he's a big boy,
a big dude. And he's a guy that you don't want to see in a heavyweight bracket. So
yeah, it's something.
So Peyton Letcher takes that over Caitlin Murdock. Again, I love to see Letcher, remaining active Midwest Finishers. Now it has 2 belts for Midwest Finishers. Yeah. Super curious if they do what East Coast Finishers did and have her defend both belts on the same day. I would love to see it. I really like the dynamism of Peyton's game. I don't think she'd care.
I think she'd do it.
I think Peyton would absolutely do it. Peyton's there to compete. I think Peyton just had an MMA fight recently as well.
Yeah, I saw something about that.
Peyton's super active competitively. I think she's probably prepping as well for trials, so would love to see it. Again, get Letcher on. Always exciting to see how the Midwest Finishers cards. Love they brought her back out there. Onto the men's 205-pound title. This was a 16-man bracket.
You're like counting 16.
I had to count. I'd look at the bracket. I had to count. In the finals, we have, give me Abe's last name because I keep messing it up.
La Montagne.
Abe La Montagne versus Andre Porfirio. And again, kind of like we saw in the women's absolute final, we had a modified straight ankle lock finish here for Porfirio. And Porfirio does this finish in... The camera angle is great for it, by the way. I love the way that Midwest Finishers uses that floating mat side camera. I really enjoy it. I know you're sometimes not a huge fan of it.
It depends on how It depends how they do it. Sometimes submission on the shore gets all up in people's business, and I'm not cool with that.
I love it.
See, I don't because...
You don't like it as a competitor.
As a competitor, if someone got all up in my business with the camera, I'd be pissed.
I love it. I love when it's like right close so I can see.
But that's me.
But this one, the camera angle is really great, and you can see a kind of interesting position from Abe, where typically from this leg position, Abe's leg is over and top, like almost like you would go for a Texas cloverleaf.
Yeah.
But when you're in that position, you usually can't get a heel hook
because the knee isn't.
Because the knee's not controlled. Trapped. And we're kind of doing a poor job of explaining exactly what leg position they're in, but it is not to TLDR, like watch this finals match. TLDR, it is not a position that you can typically hit a straight ankle lock from because there's not enough pressure, not enough control of the knee line to hit it.
I think if you hit it fast enough, it works, but it's one of the ones that you kind of have to crank because it's not going to present itself for long.
The interesting thing about this particular finish that Andre Porfirio hits on Abe is that he goes straight ankle, and then he kind of modifies it to an outside Aoki or an inside Aoki lock technically, and then bridges up, and he's able to generate enough pressure outside, kind of not going super quickly, just sort of bridging out and making the turn, and Abe isn't able to follow his knee up enough to free his foot.
Yeah, and I wonder if it might be hip control too. It might be that he just had so much hip control that even though the knee wasn't stuck, that the hip was stuck.
Yeah,
so
it might
at that
have
point
been.
You can't really. I mean,
it was controlled enough, but it is a very uncommon position you see people be able to finish from. We're starting to see people use less and less knee line control and still be able to get the subs in the last year.
That's because everybody's learning that you're supposed to get your knee free.
Yeah.
So
and everyone's learning now. It's like, hey, man, if I have a good enough bite on your foot, I don't care about your knee. I'll break you just the foot off.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to watch that level of control, kind of drive away from the knee. And you see finishes like this where Andre Porfirio doesn't have a super great bite on the knee, but is still able to put enough pressure under the foot in the modified Aoki lock to get it done. So that was Midwest Finishers. Andre Porfirio is now the men's 205-pound champion. He's been really active in Midwest Finishers, and I love to see him back on the bracket and getting it done. So that does it for Finishers, East Coast Finishers, and Midwest Finishers. Let's move on to Main Character Jiu Jitsu 2. This one was, I think, about a $25 pay-per-view, a little more on the expensive side. Production was really good. I was pretty happy with most of the production. Commentary was good. The entire event is about 9.5 hours long.
Yeah, because there's a 3v3 tournament.
Yeah, that's at the beginning. So we are, of all of the matches that happened, again, great tournament, a lot of fun. We are only going to cover the men's 185-pound tournament that we previewed last week because 9 hours is a lot of jiu-jitsu to recap.
And some of us were at a tournament coaching.
You were coaching.
7 hours after teaching 3 classes. So I basically did 9.5 hours of jiu-jitsu in one day. So
it's like a normal day.
It's a normal day.
There were there were a lot of fun matches on this card. The whole bracket is worth it. $25 I think is on the more expensive side. I would love for this pay-per-view to be a little bit cheaper. So if you have the money, support it and purchase it. There are some fun matches. I wish personally that it wasn't EBI overtime. I wish they had an ADCC ref there. Walt, the Weird Al ref, as everyone calls him. He is an ADCC referee. You have a lot of guys in Austin that are ADCC referee and judge certified. You have primary judges that live in Austin. I would love to see more organizations, especially with the B team and New Wave guys, being local to Austin too, the biggest powerhouses in the ADCC scene. I would love to see more tournaments running ADCC style rules. That being said, we had great matchups.
Yep, we had Ryan Aitken in finals versus PJ Barch.
Yeah, this was one of the. There were some really fun matches in this tournament. This match wasn't the most exciting.
Yeah.
It was really Ryan playing pretty conservatively. PJ sort of looking to kind of open him up a little bit, but also not being super willing to risk going up against Ryan, going gun for Ryan Aitken, because PJ, probably one of the smaller guys in 170 here, or 185.
Yeah.
Because PJ probably isn't cutting any weight to make 185.
No.
And then Ryan Aitken is, I think, cutting some weight to make 185.
Probably.
Ryan Aitken is a big dude. Out of 10th 10th Planet Atlanta.
Yeah.
And we've seen Aitken on Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds and Subversive and like very frequent competitor, dangerous dude. Very, very good base. We saw that throughout the entire tournament run from Ryan Aitken.
Yeah.
He does a lot of kind of camping that knee cut leg and then looking for you to turtle and belly out so that he can either take your back or smash you down into top side control. But if you stay really diligent with that front side frame or with the hip position in preventing him from being able to flatten you for the knee cut, he is also very willing and kind of happy to stay in that knee cut smash position.
Yeah, kind of like what we find a lot of MMA fighters do.
Yeah.
They kind of chill in that position because you can get away with it.
Well,
in MMA, you can punch somebody's face off.
Absolutely. And it's been combat jiu-jitsu. Yeah. You can do that as well. It's unfortunately in this rule set, you can very much play there, be active enough. We did see some stalling penalties earlier. I think we saw one in the Fedor match.
Yeah.
But it's a very, very good way to get to overtime. I just wish that there was a little bit more activity in both in a couple of the matches here in this format. Ryan does take it in overtime on ride time. Really, really great ride time performance here over PJ Barch. We all picked PJ Barch, I think, in the Grappling Run chats to win like pretty handily. So, and he's in the finals, so props to Ryan Aitken to take it.
Yep.
Plays it perfectly, plays it within the scope of the rule set, sits in that position, prevents Barch from being able to get underneath him, prevents Barch from being able to wrestle up or get a submission regulation, pushes it into overtime where he is strongest and gets it done. So that was the main event for Main Character Jiu Jitsu. Again, I would love to see him use the ADCC style rules. I think you'd get a different pacing from the guys. Yeah. All the tournament matches were 10 minutes. I think it's a good amount of time for a super fight like this for guys to work if you have that structure of being able to mandate and force the action like ADCC kind of has it. We also had a couple of matches I want to talk about in the tournament as well. We had Elijah Carlton taking on Davis Arce.
Yeah.
This is a rematch. I couldn't find the rematch, their first match, but apparently this was a pretty anticipated and excited rematch. Yeah, apparently there were a bunch of people online that were excited to see this rematch because they were like, if you know the history, this is a good one. And then I couldn't find the history.
Oh, okay.
So this was fun. We have been pretty hot on Davis Arce. After his ADCC Open performance, he unfortunately was sick and couldn't do European trials. He's a European guy out of New Wave. He was one of the top kind of hot prospect dark horse guys to take his division at European trials. Got sick, couldn't do it. He goes into the legs here with Carlton after Elijah repeatedly enters in the legs, and then he's able to hit a low side inside heel hook to finish Elijah. And a lot of guys were really, really hot on Elijah coming in as late replacement. He's a big guy currently in PGF. I always mess up the
it's PGF.
Professional Grappler Federation. The guys and 10th Planet Decatur run.
Do they run that?
I think Brandon McCaffrey runs it.
Oh, okay. I hear about it all the time. I've seen it.
Yeah.
We just don't cover it very often, and
I love what they're doing. And we got actually 2 messages this week from guys hey, you should cover that. And if we have time, we definitely will. I love the league format that they run, but he's a guy that's been putting a lot of highlights up in PFG, and so him to come in late replacement here was exciting because he's got a lot of steam behind him. It was impressive to see Davis be able to take him out like that. Davis also hits another inside, instead of going heel hook, he goes toe hold.
Yeah.
In an earlier match, I forget exactly who that match was against.
Well, Arce broke Elijah's foot in that match.
Oh, really?
That was the toe hold.
Oh, that was the inside low side toe hold.
Yeah, that was the toe hold because Elijah, for as good as he is, has been posting memes about his foot being broken, and it's pretty hilarious.
That's pretty funny. I like when you take it in stride like that.
He's literally posting all kinds of people, because people make memes about shit, and he's been reposting them.
That's funny.
But yeah, he's the one that you see his foot bend in half.
Oh yeah, it's a gross, disgusting. Yeah, that was
Carlson's
interesting,
or foot.
Controlled toe hold. It's not a toe hold you see very often, and it was cool to see more from Davis's game there because I don't remember the last time that I've seen an inside 50-50 toe hold like that.
Yeah, no, I don't. You don't see him very often.
So watch out for him. Also in this bracket we had. You want to read through them? because they're your notes and you did a better job than I did.
There was a couple different things we mentioned. PJ beats Hunter Colvin. And you wanted to talk about the Kimura trap.
So they go to the match, the overtime. The regulation match was fun. It was a lot of wrestling back and forth. I'm always impressed with Colvin's wrestling.
Yeah, it's good.
It seemed like Barch wasn't really too concerned about getting taken down.
We saw Hunter Colvin beat at Grapplefest or Polaris, one of the British
UK
ones.
Cards.
He went against Owen Livesey.
Okay.
And he beat Owen Livesey wrestling.
Yeah.
So we know Hunter can bring it if he needs to bring
Hunter's really good. And this match, again, Hunter's a bigger guy, probably cutting to make 85. And he had a little size on Barch, but it was again, to see his wrestling on display is always impressive. I'm always super hot on Hunter Colvin.
And PJ wins this match, but not for Colvin not try or
no.
Well,
they go to overtime, and Colvin does something really neat. They go. Barch is escaping with like that traditional pull the arm over for your back mount.
From the back.
And then Hunter reaches over Barch's like chest, grabs a figure 4 lock on a Kimura, and then sort of scoots while Barch is scooting out and ends up in almost a standing on your knees power Kimura down, and they both have to stand up completely for Barch to break it. It was a really interesting transition that we don't see guys do a lot.
Yeah, I've never seen anybody do that, and that's a really smart thing because it keeps somebody in the transition of a submission. So technically, you're not out until you get fully out of that. Kimura.
Wagner will use this a lot of times to take the back again, and it was interesting because I watched this with that in mind because I know Barch is trained with Wagner. I know that Barch will use this as well, and I was curious how Barch prevented Colvin from taking the back with this Kimura to keep the ride time going. Barch stands up, and then he makes like a J turn, and he turns almost down and out in order to break the grip of Colvin, so that he's standing up enough, and there's a loss of contact.
I need to remember that in my head.
Yeah,
it was for shits and giggles.
It was a neat. It was a neat transition. It showcases just how good Colvin is because we know how good Barch is. Like, go back and watch his ADCC run. We know how good Barch is, so it's cool to see Colvin being able to pull a technique like that out on Barch. Doesn't inevitably get the win, but that match was very close, and that was an interesting piece in that match.
And we had a bunch of other gentlemen in this bracket that we've seen a bunch of times. We had Oliver Taza in this bracket.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be Taza versus Barch in the finals, but Aitken takes out Taza with ride time as well.
Yeah. And then
we have the women's title fight.
Yep.
We have this was awesome. I love this match. This is a rematch. This was Sophia Cassella versus Jasmine Rocha, and you reminded me of their East Coast Trials match from 2021 because this is a rematch of that, and that was a good match in ADCC rules. They rematch here under EBI style rules, but tell us about the first one.
So the trials match, it was in the last it was a regulation match. In the last 10 seconds, we have Jasmine try to blast double Sophia kind of when she's kind of backed up almost to the line. And we have Sophia do a really good job kind of pushing away and turtling, Jasmine getting on her back, and Jasmine making the decision at that point to then get her legs in and try to take the back from that
try
position.
To get the points.
Yes, because Sophia turtles from the takedown, so there's no points there.
Right.
And then...
Which is good and like a thoughtful way to do that.
I thought if she turtled and spun to her back, she though got points.
No, there's no takedown.
There's no takedown.
Because so that's the AJ Agazarm thing that happened at the World Championships.
If you snap down and spin to the back, you get points.
Because,
yes, you do. You do. I'm almost positive. If you snap them down and spin to their back, you get points. That's a wrestling takedown thing that they took over. I think there's a time limit though. I think you have to spin to the back during a certain amount of time.
I will look into this. I will look into this, and
I almost positive.
I absolutely should know this as a head judge for ADCC.
I thought that's how it works. Like because that's
if you cut the angle.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
if you start going for a different position, like what Agazarm did, if there's a back take and then you finish the takedown.
I think the problem with Agazarm is there was a reset in the midst of it.
Essentially, yeah. There was a different position. Yeah. It's not a continuous motion for a takedown. There was a fight for another position, and they went back to the takedown, so they can't score the takedown. That's what happened with the Agazarm match.
But I think this one, it's also the last 10 seconds, so who knows if there was enough time with settling the position, if there was enough time for what was going on.
She doesn't score.
But anyway,
they go to overtime.
Yeah, she almost gets her back. She gets a little butthurt over it. You can tell when she gets up. She has a little bit of an attitude.
Jasmine is upset about it.
Yeah, she's upset about it. And then in overtime, Sophia tries to shoot for a takedown. Jasmine just reverses the takedown, gets 2 when she lands, and that's about it.
So this was a fun rematch. Jasmine Rocha's guard, we've known it for a while. We've talked about it on the show. Man, Rocha is dangerous from the guard. Jasmine Rocha, early in this match, like basically folds completely in half. She pulls Sophia down low and is able to get basically from Sophia's post hand grip an armbar from the bottom.
Yeah.
And she turns Sophia over, and she has like the power grip with the armbar underneath your own arm, the one you can bridge your chest back out. And
with the arm underneath.
And it's like the guillotine grip armbar.
Yeah.
And it's kind of trapped there. And she has Sophia's arm 15%.
Yeah, it's
15 degrees, 20 degrees, hyperextended and bent the wrong way. And Sophia isn't like, it doesn't look like it's breaking. It just looks like it's kind of the wrong way a little bit.
She probably has arms like me. My arms do that.
Super flexible.
Yeah.
But
my arms will go that way.
I think straight up eats the armbar.
Yeah, she eats
gets out. And I went like, okay, well, that was an insanely deep armbar from Jasmine.
Jasmine also tried to do that stupid choke that I hate from people that pass your guard.
The buggy choke?
Yeah, she tries to buggy
Did she try to buggy choke her?
She tries to buggy choke Sophia at one point. Sophia, does the normal step over, put the knee on the face, and push away.
This was, again, a great regulation match. I would have loved to see this.
I like how I can say stuff like that, and you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about now. This is a really fun regulation match. It does go to overtime, and Sophia's able to get an armbar in overtime here over Jasmine. Again, I would love to see a rematch in the ADCC rules. I think one is still in the cards. Big props to Sophia for being able to, like get out of that initial armbar. One thing that was really neat in this armbar transition was Jasmine has Sophia's arm underneath the armpit, and then she's bridging through. The arm is bent kind of the other way, and then you see Jasmine elect to take the arm out and try to finish more traditionally over the chest, and Sophia's able to escape in that transition. I thought it was really interesting. I'm curious why Jasmine decided to make that switch. And if it was like she didn't have enough hip to like continue to bridge through the arm, and she knew Sophia's arm was bent as much as she could bend it, and decided to try to go over the hip line. Like, I would love to talk to Jasmine to ask specifically why she decided to make that transition, because I'm just super curious what she was feeling in that moment to elect to make that, because obviously, you know, Jasmine's a world level competitor.
Well, and then this match goes into overtime, and then Sophia is actually the winner of this match. She wins by armbar.
I said that, I think.
Did you?
I think so.
I was getting confused because you kept on going back to Jasmine's armbar, and I
forgot about the transition because that was the neat thing for me.
But Jasmine didn't win. Sophia won.
Yeah, it goes to overtime, and they got the armbar. So
and Sophia gets an armbar, more of your classic armbar.
Yeah, overtime. You start in the armbar. She's able to finish it again. Props to her. That's what the rules. That's what the rule set is.
Yep.
It was a fun card. I would love the pay-per-view price to be a little cheaper. $25 was a little steep, but if that helped get and be able to support getting the athletes there, getting that level of production, you know, it's if you keep having this level of talent on the cards,
well, they're in Texas, so it's all there.
Hey,
everybody's there.
Put on good cards. We'll watch.
So
moving on to the preview section of the show. We got. What do you want to start, Miranda? You want to start with Grapplefest?
Yeah, you have Grapplefest up, and we will go from there.
So we got Crown and Grapplefest. We're going to start with Grapplefest. We have every tacket on Grapplefest and Cody Steele.
We have all the tackets.
Brazilian Fight Factory coming out hard for Grapplefest. We have, I think, main evented is Owen O'Flanagan versus William Tackett. This will be a battle of the leg locks. Yeah. Owen probably was bigger in ADCC last time because he was 88 kilos and Tackett was under 77 kilos. I am amped for this. I think this is going to be Owen. Go back and watch Owen O'Flanagan's match versus Wagner Rocha.
Yeah.
It is one of my favorite matches because Owen kind of like breaks his foot or something, and then looks at Wagner after or something like that and goes, "Hey man, you're really about the cause."
Yeah.
And it's just one of my favorite like moments.
Yeah.
Because Owen's like, I broke his foot and he just didn't tap it. He's like, yeah, we're in ADCC, man. I'm not going to tap to that.
And then you ran into him in a scooter.
I did later, Wagner in a scooter. This is exciting. I think that we are probably going to see Owen pull here and fight for the legs. Tackett has very, very good leg lock defense. Go back and watch his run at trials. this last week. I have no idea who to pick here. Owen surprised me so much with his European trials one last time, but William surprised me so much again.
And then coming to championships and not losing first round. Because the European, I mean, not to be mean.
No, historically, the European ADCC trials winners have not fared as well. That's typically why they are seated lower.
Yeah.
We had Owen looking really good at ADCC. And I think a lot of people made us kind of eat our words last ADCC trials. It really showed how good the European talent has become.
And I think shows like the Grapplefest are the reason, and Polaris are the reason, because they're allowing these pro shows there where they can actually
not making guys travel across the world to go and compete against the rest, like bring it over here. I want to go William Tackett because I just saw him recently at trials.
Do you want the Tackett?
I want the Tackett trilogy, the trifecta to win.
The trifecta to win.
But Owen is a tough nut to crack.
I wonder if you can bet on it. Bet the trifecta.
Oh, maybe. Neither would surprise me here. Owen has some of the quickest and best leg locks in Europe, but William is very, very savvy. This is going to be hopefully not a tentative match, but a fight for the legs, I think, for both. Wouldn't surprise me to see Tackett pull it out of the legs and try to get Owen's back, but Owen is notoriously hard to kind of get a hold of and settle down. He's very long-limbed. This will be an exciting one.
I'll go with Owen just because.
The contrary pick.
Yep.
Next, we have Cody Steele versus Jack Grant. Steele coming off looking fun at trials.
Yeah.
Again, look for Cody Steele to put on some highlights. That's what he does.
I'm not betting against Cody Steele.
Jack Grant's a tough dude to beat, but again, our American bias is going to show here. I'm going to pick Steele. Go back and watch all the highlights of trials. Also, the dude gave me an interview at East Coast Trials here, so you can hear him talk as well.
Cody Steele did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Was that like one of the first ones you put up?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago because I'm still editing them now. We also have Andrew Tackett versus Ellis Younger. Younger's a guy we've talked about a lot on the European scene. Very, very good. Andrew Tackett was the dark horse. If he's actually healed up enough now to take this match, go back and watch Andrew Tackett's match versus PJ Barch.
Yeah.
We just talked about how good PJ Barch is.
He's a youngin. He's one of the youngins that irritates me.
19, I think. I think Andrew Tackett, if he is healed, can win his trials division. I don't think there's a single dude that's not already qualified for ADCC that can beat Andrew Tackett on a regular basis. I'm going to go Andrew Tackett here. We also have Ashley Bendo versus Mara Kelly. We have a whole bunch of great matchups on the card. We have Stevie Ray versus Shane Curtis, Grapplefest and Polaris standout Shane Curtis. Caleb Tackett, the third Tackett, the youngest Tackett, taking on Christian Amador. You can go back and watch some of Caleb's matches on the U.S. trials.
Yep.
He makes it. Does he make day 2?
I don't remember. I can't tell you.
He looked good in the 2 matches I saw him on. We also have Nora Schultz taking on Gami Kanu, and a bunch of other. Grapplefest always brings out great European talent. I don't know where they are streaming and broadcast now.
They were on.
They were on their own thing. They've moved around a little bit.
I thought they were on Flow for whatever reason.
Are they on Flow?
They were on something.
They were on Flow. They've been on Fight Pass. The pay-per-view's €12.
$10, yeah.
Very much worth it. That's $10. That $10, $11 fee.
Yeah,
is like the sweet spot for me.
So this one, just so everybody knows this Glister that they do their pay-per-views on, whatever you buy it on,
whatever device
you have to watch it on. So if you're like us and you try to watch it on the way home from training, which is what I do from my phone, when you get home, you can't then transfer it from your phone to your computer.
So be aware of that.
So be aware of that. And there's you only get one showing, meaning you have to watch it live. And once it goes off, you don't get to replay it.
Yeah.
Because I fell asleep during the main event last time and I missed it.
So be aware. I would love them to fix that, but that's why it's the €12 price. So that's Grapplefest. Moving on to the IBJJF Crown. We have 6 stacked brackets. They're 4-person brackets.
Yeah.
We have them out now. The featherweight bracket is Sam Nagai taking on Diego Pato. On that side, Fabricio Andre taking on Isaac Doderlin. Good luck, all of these guys.
I'm just going to go I'm going to go for Fabricio Andre.
I want to pick Fabricio because we've seen him talked about him more recently, but this is a weird bracket. Everyone can beat everyone.
Oh, and this is also first place winner gets 15,000, second place gets 3,000. So there is some money put up for this tournament.
I love athletes getting paid by IBJJF. They don't do it enough. They need to have more of these events.
Pick somebody and let's go. Let's go to the next one.
I don't know. I'm gonna go for Fabricio Andre, but any of these four gentlemen.
Dude, any of these brackets, anybody can win. You gotta go. You gotta pick somebody.
Luisa Montera takes on Brianna Stay Marie.
And this is women's lightweight.
Yeah. Okay. And then Natalie Habero takes on Gianna Libre. I'm gonna go Brianna Stay Marie.
Yeah,
even though it's in the gi.
True.
Looks phenomenal. And again, in the IBJJF, Brianna can play that close guard that she's so good at, and we know that she really likes to play. Luisa's looked all these women, again, have looked very good. Gianna Libre also wouldn't surprise me to take this whole thing as well, world champion.
Yeah, I agree.
Very, very stacked. There's two rubber matches in this bracket as well. Thank you, Flo. We have what bracket is this? We have Tynan Daupra and Pedro Maya. On one side, we have Andy Murasaki and Mauricio Oliveira.
Light heavy?
Maybe.
Let me do that. You keep on talking, and you tell me who's gonna win.
Look, Jansen Gomez is not in this bracket.
Yeah.
Tynan Daupra's gonna take this.
Yeah.
If he doesn't take it, it would be astonishing. But that's until someone else can beat consistently, not one time, but consistently.
Because I think
Tynan Daupra.
I think also Tynan has the ability to. He has a lot of He has the Mendezes in his corner.
Yeah.
And the Mendezes will not let you make the same mistake twice.
Nope,
I
absolutely
feel like
not.
They are very.
They're very game plan oriented. They're like those guys. Them and Atos, which were the same team for years essentially, stick to a game plan better than almost any other gym in the world, and they have some of the best game planners in the sport.
I don't know why they're not putting what the weight class is, because that's annoying.
It is a little odd, but
give me a second.
That's the bracket. Again, I'm going Tynan Daupra. I love Andy Murasaki, but until you are Jansen Gomez on the other side of that bracket, I'm picking Tynan Daupra. In the heavyweight, we have Felipe Andrew taking on Francisco Lowe. On one side, we have Gustavo Batista versus Anderson Ferreira.
Middle.
On the other side of the bracket.
The last one was middle.
That was middleweight. So this is a heavyweight bracket. Yeah. I think Felipe Andrew just had a win over Anderson Ferreira at AJP, which unfortunately we didn't get to cover this week. I would love to cover AJP. Anderson Ferreira. Francisco Lowe versus Felipe Andrew is going to be a banger.
Yeah.
Gustavo Batista can also be. These are all weird. This is hey man, the top 4 seeds in your division. Put them all here.
Well, and
anyone can win on the day.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah, which makes sense. It's just hard to pick.
I think Felipe Andrew and Francisco Lowe is going to be a freaking madness.
Yeah, I think so. That'll have shades of Wardzinski versus Felipe Andrew.
Yeah.
Those matches they've had back and forth. I think Francisco Lowe pushes that super fast pace.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. Gustavo Batista and Anderson Ferreira should also be a lot of fun too. Both of those guys are super good submission hunters. Gustavo has really been hunting in the last 2 years a ton of subs. I kind of want to go Felipe Andrew, Gustavo Batista in the finals here, but again, it's the crown. It's the top 4 guys in the sub.
I go dark horse Francisco Lowe.
I would love to see Francisco Lowe win.
I think his no-gi game is a lot more destructive than his gi game, but I also saw him foot sweep Margali live.
There's that.
So
on the women's matches, we have heavyweight. We have Gabriele Passana taking on Amy Campo on one side, Natalia DeJesus and Melissa Stricker-Kuto on the other side of that bracket.
Oh, this one's bad.
This is, I think,
because Gabrielle,
you switch this. This should be switched. I think Campo should be on the other side of this.
That's what I mean, because her and Gabby are basically the 2 heavyweights that no one can beat.
Yeah.
Or it's very difficult to beat.
And Campo occasionally in the gi can take losses, but in no gi, good luck. One of the best. She's an ADCC heavyweight champion.
I'm going to go Natalia
DeJesus?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going her because I think the Gabby Campo goes to Gabby, and I watched Natalie take out freaking all kinds of people.
I'm gonna go Passana because Passana has won so many of these absolutes.
Yeah.
You always go dark horse, Miranda.
Yeah.
That is your dark horse.
I don't go like far dark horse. I go like limited.
You go like third seed dark horse.
Yeah.
For the big tournaments. I think Pisana takes it. It wouldn't surprise me to see Campo take it. Melissa Stricker-Kuto has been posting like her workouts on Instagram. That woman is in phenomenal shape right now. And it looks like
Campo and Pisana is a what's it called? Is a rematch of absolute finals.
Yeah.
For Worlds. So, and that match was a banger. So that should be also. So it should be interesting to see what she can bring back from that match.
We have the men's heavyweights. We have Eric Muniz taking on Roosevelt Souza. And on
we said the other one was heavy, but I think this is super heavy.
It's big gentlemen.
Big.
Victor Hernario versus João Gabriel Rocha. We haven't seen a lot of from JGR in a while.
No.
I kind of want to go Eric Muniz for the whole thing.
Me too. Yeah.
If Muniz gets to being able to play his game, I think this goes Muniz, and I think it goes Muniz impressively. Roosevelt Souza can absolutely play spoiler, and if João Gabriel Rocha is in rare form, can sweep anyone out either. So this is, and then Hernario. I hate picking these. These are like impossible to pick.
Muniz. I go Muniz, and that's the last of our...
So that is the IBJJF Crown. It should be a lot of fun. We'll cover those next week. Miranda, got anything else for next week?
No, we have the Enyo.
It's a women's tournament coming up.
Yeah, it's a women's tournament. It's on Flow.
Yep.
Check that out if you get a chance. It's something. And then we...
ADCC Oceanic Champion next week.
Or it's not on Flow, but it's
think it's on Flow.
It's definitely around. So you can catch that out.
We might be flying to Iceland soon. If there's a volcano.
Yeah, if there's a volcano in Iceland, like... We're going to go see it. We might have to do the podcast from Iceland.
I had to answer a bunch of GIS. So we're in the outro now. I had to answer a bunch of GIS information from Red. Just like, hey, man, what does this mean? And I looked and I was like, this means this and this thing.
I have some really bizarre things that, like, I will pay attention to like a crazy person. And one of them is volcanoes in Iceland. Mostly because we can catch a really fast 6-hour direct flight from Baltimore to Iceland for $400 round trip. So if they have a volcano,
if I could go fly a drone through a volcano, I'll do it.
And they'll let you. They don't care.
Cool.
So
sounds like, and there's good training there. There's
yeah. So.
Look, you have sold me on this Iceland trip. I was like, I talked to my wife. I was like, get your passport fixed so we can go.
And the thing is, she can get it like.
I know. I'm excited.
So we'll see. I'll keep an eye open.
You came down the podcast studio. You're like, hey, look at this. Read this GIS data.
Yeah,
I was
like, where does this mean this volcano is about to happen?
Because it means here.
Because if it's in a not populated area, then it's considered a tourist volcano, and we can visit it. If it shows up in Grindavik, it's a natural disaster that
would be unfortunate.
We're not going to be part of.
Just in the ocean, it's also a natural disaster.
Yeah, like there's a lot of ways that this could go horribly wrong.
But if it ends up where it's supposed to end up, it could be awesome.
Yeah, we could go visit it. We can do the Google when you put Google into Icelandic and it starts talking about all kinds of stuff that you just don't understand. It's fun times. It's good times.
So yeah, look out for Grappling Rewind. It comes to Iceland soon. If you guys get a volcano, if we have any listeners, which actually based on the metrics we do in Iceland,
do we?
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, we're like everywhere. That's crazy.
That's awesome.
Shoot us a message. Let us know. Yep, it's here. And I got nothing else more to do.
Nope, that's it.
All right. As always in the show, I'm your host Maine, my co-host
Miranda,
and we are the Grappling Rewind. So that what it is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.